The series begins 1,000 years ago with a vampire named Hyul and his lover trying to escape from a group of soldiers. They run into the forest, but his lover is struck by an arrow and dies. Hyul is deeply saddened and enraged, and he wipes out all the soldiers who were chasing them. Years later, we see Hyul living among humans. Because he is a special kind of vampire, he is able to walk under the sunlight. At night, he hangs out with his friends at a nightclub. Hyul is there, and the girls are impressed by him because he looks human and is handsome. When he leaves the club, he sees one of his vampire friends feeding on a human woman. Hyul yells at him and says, "Didn't I tell you to stop drinking human blood?" He tells him to feed on animal blood only. His friend laughs and replies, "I wasn't going to eat her. I just wanted to taste her blood." Later, when Hyul is standing alone, he sees a couple in love and longs to experience love again, like them. He decides to become human so he can fall in love once more after losing his lover. One night, as he is walking alone, he comes across a cat and offers it food. Suddenly, the cat transforms into a wizard. Hyul tells him his story, that he wants to become human because his dead lover had promised him she would be reborn as a human. The wizard tells him, "I can help you turn from a vampire into a human, but if you want to become human, you'll have to sleep in a coffin for 100 years. Hyul is shocked but decides to follow his advice. He returns to his castle, bids farewell to his vampire friends, lies down in the coffin, and his friends seal it shut. 100 years pass, and we are introduced to a girl named Jenny. She lives alone and works as a nurse at a school. When she arrives at work, she is attacked by a student's mother who hits her because she cut her daughter's hair. They go to the principal's office where Jenny explains the truth, that the girl was being bullied by her classmates who stuck gum in her hair, and that's why Jenny cut it. The mother feels guilty, realizing she knew nothing about what her daughter was going through. Meanwhile, we see Hyul's vampire friends still living among humans, waiting for Hyul to finish his 100 years of sleep. They say, "Only 2 days left, and Hyul will wake up as a human." At night, Jenny returns home and sees her landlord running away in a hurry. She finds it strange, but goes upstairs to sleep. The next day, she wakes up to find a municipal worker at her door with an eviction notice. She rushes to the landlord's office, but finds it closed. Then she goes to the police station, where she learns that the landlord scammed her out of her money and fled. Jenny goes to the bank and tries to get a loan, but the employee refuses and tells her she must first pay off her old loan before getting a new one. Suddenly, Jenny gets a call from the family lawyer. When she goes to see him, he tells her that her grandfather has passed away and she has inherited an old mansion. Jenny quickly travels to the mansion. When she enters, it's abandoned and very scary. She walks through it until she reaches a room at the very end and finds a coffin. She decides to open it to see what's inside. And suddenly, she finds Hyul, the vampire, lying there. She's terrified of him. But then he wakes up and says to her, "Don't be afraid. I'm human now, just like you. I've been asleep in this coffin for 100 years. I'm the original owner of this mansion, even before your father." But Jenny is still scared and tells him she'll call the police. Hyul grabs her hands, then notices that they're wounded and bleeding. When he smells her blood, he realizes he's still a vampire. And he also realizes she opened the coffin one day before the 100 years were complete. Shocked, he says to her, "You've ruined my plan. All those years wasted. Now, I have to punish you." He's about to drink her blood, but Jenny bites him instead. Hyul screams and faints. Jenny quickly takes him to the hospital. There, his heartbeat stops, and the doctors tell her he's dead and leave the room. But then, another bleeding patient enters the room, and when Hyul smells the blood, he wakes up. The doctor sees him awake and screams. When Hyul and Jenny leave the hospital, they argue because she woke him up a day early, before he could fully become human. He yells at her. Jenny storms off and leaves him. Hyul doesn't know how to get back to the mansion, as 100 years have passed and everything has changed. Meanwhile, Hyul's vampire friends are on their way to the mansion with gifts, ready to wake him up since the 100 years are finally over, and he should now be human. But they're shocked to find the coffin already open, and Hyul gone. At the same time, Hyul is hungry, weak, and lost. Suddenly, he sees a cat and thinks it's the wizard, so he follows it and tries to talk to it. But 2 girls see him and think he's bothering the cat. He asks them to help him find his mansion and describes it. They recognize the place, give him a map, and he finally makes it back. He enters the mansion happily and starts to remember his memories with his vampire friends. He feels lonely and changes his clothes, deciding to sleep the one remaining day. But he's shocked to see the coffin burned. Suddenly, Jenny arrives at the mansion, planning to live there since she has nowhere else to go. She's surprised to see Hyul And he's annoyed by her too. Both of them want the other to leave. Hyul decides to prove to her that he's a vampire and tries to use his powers, but he fails. He realizes he's weak because he hasn't drunk blood and has been asleep for 100 years. Feeling frustrated, he notices his reflection in her eyes. He moves closer to confirm, but she misunderstands and thinks he's trying to assault her. Feeling embarrassed, she throws him out of the mansion. Outside, Hyul tries to break down the door, but he's too weak and hungry. Jenny goes out to buy food but sees Hyul digging through a trash can looking for the cat. She thinks he's just hungry, feels sorry for him, and buys him food. When Hyul tastes it, he's surprised to find he likes the taste. He scolds Jenny for opening the coffin early, but when he moves closer to her, he notices she looks like his late lover. He starts hallucinating and faints. Jenny is confused and walks away, leaving him there. Later, the shop owner wakes him up and kicks him out. Hyul wanders the streets and suddenly he sees another cat. This time it really is the wizard, who transforms into his human form. Hyul is happy to see him and tells him the coffin was burned. The wizard explains that the coffin was magical and had absorbed his powers, and because he came out a day early, he became half human and half vampire. The wizard advises Hyul to stay close to Jenny because she opened the coffin, meaning she's a special human. The next day, Jenny wakes up and gets a call saying her house is being demolished. She rushes over to collect her things, but is shocked to see the workers have thrown her belongings on the ground. Feeling upset, she starts picking them up. The project engineer, named Song, sees her and comes over to apologize. He's surprised when he sees her because she was his classmate at university. He remembers the first time he saw her. He was riding his bike, dropped his books, and hurt his hand. Jenny saw him, came over, and helped treat his wound. Since then, he had admired her. Snapping out of his memories, Song sits with her and offers to help, but she thanks him, saying she likes to rely on herself. He gives her his business card and tells her to call him if she needs anything, then leaves. After that, on her way home, Jenny sees the landlord who scammed her. She chases after him, but as she runs across the street in a hurry, she almost gets hit by a car. At that moment, Hyul is waiting for her at the mansion, and he feels pain in the bite mark on his neck. He remembers the wizard's words, that Jenny is a special human and he has to protect her. Suddenly, he senses that Jenny is in danger, so he runs to save her. He remembers that the wizard gave him a vial of blood to give him strength. He decides to drink it, feels his power return, leaps onto a tall building, and uses his enhanced senses to listen for her voice and pinpoint her location. At the same time, Jenny is chasing the scammer, who leads her to an abandoned place and decides to hit her with a metal pipe. But Hyul arrives just in time, stops him, grabs the pipe, and breaks it in half. The scammer is terrified by his strength. He tries to stab Hyul with a knife, but is shocked when the wound heals instantly. He realizes Hyul isn't human. Hyul approaches him and warns him, "If you come near Jenny again, I'll kill you." He grabs him and throws him far enough to knock him out. Then, Hyul checks on Jenny, but she's shocked by what she just saw and realizes for sure that Hyul is a vampire. Hyul has a flashback to the first time he saw his old lover. She was lost and had wandered into an abandoned place as well, where she was attacked by an evil vampire. Luckily, Hyul arrived just in time to save her. Hyul snaps out of his memories, feeling that Jenny reminds him of his former love. He reassures her that he's harmless. Jenny believes him and holds his hand. But then she sees the scammer trying to escape again, and she runs after him. The police arrive, arrest him, and he confesses everything because he's still terrified of Hyul. At the police station, the scammer tells the detective what happened, that Hyul broke the pipe with his bare hands and must not be human. But Jenny insists he's lying and argues with the scammer, demanding her money back. Suddenly, the other victims arrive and start beating up the scammer to get their money back too. Meanwhile, Hyul is wandering the streets and notices a big shopping mall. Curious, he goes inside to look around and sees strange clothes and items. Realizing this is the fashion of this era, he decides to try it out and keeps buying lots of things even though he has no money. When he goes to pay, he remembers he found Jenny's wallet and decides to use her card. He buys the most expensive phone and even plays games until he spends all the money. Meanwhile, Jenny realizes her wallet is missing and she's out of money. She walks back to the mansion and sees Hyul there with lots of shopping bags. She asks where he got the money. Hyul gives her back her card and casually says, "It's all spent. Make sure to top it up so I can keep buying." Jenny is shocked by how cold he is. When they go inside, she looks at all the things he bought and gets angry, seeing that he bought expensive AirPods while she has no money left. She starts crying. Hyul is confused and asks why she cares so much about money. Jenny tells him she's alone and has no family, so she depends on herself and saves up so she can eventually get married. Hyul is touched by her words and feels sorry for her. He tells her not to worry. He'll make it up to her. He says he had hidden a chest of gold under the coffin for emergencies. He goes to retrieve it, but when he opens the chest, he's shocked to find it empty. He realizes his friends must have taken it. Feeling embarrassed, he goes back to Jenny. Jenny takes pictures of all the things he bought and posts them online to sell them. Suddenly, she gets a message from someone who wants to buy the jacket and agrees to meet her the next day in the subway. She's happy and asks Hyul to go to the meeting because she has work and can't make it. Hyul refuses, saying he's a vampire and she should serve him. But Jenny threatens that if he doesn't do it, she'll kick him out of the mansion. Hyul gets scared because she has the deed to the mansion and apologizes, agreeing to go. The next day, Jenny goes to her job. When Hyul wakes up, he finds a note from her with the address, so he's forced to take the jacket and head to the subway. He's amazed when he sees the escalator moving by itself and is scared of it at first, but then gathers his courage and steps on it. Jenny had told him that the customer buying the jacket would be wearing a cap, but when Hyul arrives, he's shocked to see everyone wearing caps. He keeps asking people one by one until he finally finds the customer and is stunned to see it's one of his vampire friends. He sits with him and asks if he was the one who took the gold. The friend gets nervous and scared. Hyul takes him to the shop where their other friend works. Hyul is happy to see him and hugs him. They offer him a glass of blood and tell him they're there to help however they can. But when Hyul asks for money, they say that's the one thing they can't help with because they're in debt, and they leave him and walk away. Later, Jenny goes to her old house to pick up her things. There, she bumps into Song, who offers to help. She gets in his car and he drives her back to the mansion. Jenny is impressed by him and thanks him for being kind. Suddenly, Hyul arrives, and Jenny has to lie. Right. Yao says Song is her cousin and that they inherited the mansion together. Hyul goes to shake Song's hand, but is surprised at how cold it is. Jenny gets flustered and scared he might figure out the truth, so she pulls Hyul away, saying Song has a hereditary disease and quickly takes him inside before he exposes them. Inside, she yells at him, saying, "You're a vampire! You shouldn't even talk to humans!" She holds her hand out, and Hyul happily thinks she wants to shake hands, but instead she demands the money from the jacket he sold. He gives her the money, but she sees it's less than what it should be, realizing his friend ripped him off. Hyul promises to pay her back in full, but Jenny makes him sign an IOU and gives him 6 months, or else she'll sell the mansion and kick him out. Hyul gets angry and almost bites her, but controls himself. The next day he goes to his friend and asks for a job. His friend tells him he needs to get an ID card first and takes him to get his photo taken. Then they go to a job agency. The manager there is impressed by Hyul's good looks and hires him as a security guard for an event hall because he's wearing a suit. But Hyul feels dizzy from the incense and quits, returning to the coffin to sleep. The owner sees him and, scared, kicks him out. Next, Hyul tries being a delivery man, delivering milk to houses. But a bully crashes into him, spilling the milk, and runs away on his motorcycle. Because of that, Hyul gets fired and comes back to the mansion tired and frustrated. Jenny sees him and offers to let him help clean the mansion in exchange for a portion of his debt. Hyul agrees and starts cleaning with her. They work together and succeed in cleaning the mansion. At the end of the day, they sit and talk. She asks why he insists on living in such an old place. Hyul tells her it used to be a cabin where he used to meet his lover, and he still hopes she'll come back. Then he goes to sit on the roof, remembering his lover, watching the moon like they used to. Suddenly, he feels the bite on his neck ache and senses Jenny is in danger. He rushes to find her. She's cleaning the floor and suddenly a chandelier falls. But Hyul saves her just in time. He notices a drop of blood on her lips and licks it, then realizes her blood tastes just like his former lover's. We learn that before his lover died, she asked him to drink her blood so he'd recognize her when she's reborn in a new body. Jenny gets angry and slaps him for trying to suck her blood. Hyul thinks to himself, "My old lover was romantic, but this girl is so hot-tempered." Jenny goes to her room and thinks about what happened. Upset that the first guy to kiss her was a vampire, Hyul goes to his friends and tells them what happened. They envy him because they also want to taste human blood. Suddenly, their female vampire friend comes in, angry because they owe her money. She's surprised to see Hyul and thinks he became human, but he explains he's half human, half vampire. She feels sorry for him, and tells him she works at the hospital's blood bank. She gives him a bag of blood to drink. Later, Haeul sneaks back to the mansion so Jenny won't notice, but she's waiting, furious over what he did. She almost kicks him out. Haeul apologizes and promises not to do it again. Jenny forgives him but demands her money back or she'll beat him up. Haeul is scared and thinks to himself, "No way my lover is such a thug." The next day, he asks his friend to find him any job. His friend sends him to deliver an order, which turns out to be a bag of garbage. Haeul feels humiliated, a vampire throwing out trash, but does it anyway. There, he sees Jenny and learns she works as a school nurse. He decides to get a job at the school as a janitor, to stay close to her and protect her. On his first day at school, the girls are amazed to see such a handsome janitor, and even the students admire his looks. Haeul is shocked when he bumps into the same bully who spilled his milk before. He gets angry and tells him to pick up what he dropped, but the rich boy refuses and leaves. Later, Haeul goes to Jenny's office. She's surprised to see him and worried about the students because he's a vampire. But Haeul reassures her that he's harmless. Suddenly, a student with an injury comes in. Jenny quickly sends Haeul out, so he won't suck his blood. That night, Song calls Jenny and asks her out. He takes her to his restaurant and tells her it's opening tomorrow, and he wanted her to be the first to eat there. Jenny is happy and thanks him. Meanwhile, Haeul walks past a liver restaurant, smells the blood, and decides to eat there. But he's shocked to find the owner is his neighbor, who keeps asking about the mansion. Afraid she'll find out his secret, Haeul leaves quickly. When he gets back to the mansion, he finds the wizard waiting for him. The wizard tells him what happened with Jenny and says, "You have to make her fall in love with you. Then, when you drink her blood, you'll become human." Haeul is shocked but decides to do it quickly, thinking it will be easy since he's handsome, and she'll fall for him instantly. But at that moment, Jenny comes back to the mansion with Song, who gives her an expensive gift. Jenny is happy and starts feeling attracted to Song. Haeul sees them and feels jealous. When Jenny comes in, he scolds her for coming back late and tells her to follow the mansion's rules and not let anyone drive her home. Jenny refuses and goes to her room. The next day at school, Jenny sees Haeul asking an old cleaning lady to take a break while he works instead. Jenny is happy with what he did and feels that Haeul is actually kind. Later, the bully sees Haeul working and gets jealous because he's so handsome. He decides to get him fired. Suddenly, a fire breaks out at school. The firefighters put it out just in time, but the principal accuses Haeul of starting it because the bully testified against him. The old lady defends Haeul and says he's innocent, but the principal doesn't believe her and decides to fire Haeul and fine him. Jenny arrives and shows the principal a video of the bully smoking, proving he caused the fire. The principal is shocked and punishes the bully instead. Haeul is moved by what Jenny did for him. When he gets back to the mansion, he remembers how his former lover also defended him in the past. When Jenny comes back, he accidentally calls her by his old lover's name and moves closer to her. Jenny thinks he's going to bite her again, but this time she sprays something in his eyes and knocks him to the ground. When she finds out he just wanted to apologize, she feels guilty, gives him tissues. But Haeul suddenly asks her to marry him so he can become human. Jenny panics and refuses, saying she could never marry a vampire, and goes to her room. Haeul is sad and disappointed. He goes to his friends and asks for their help. They agree and help him come up with a plan to make Jenny fall for him. They suggest he show her care and attention, and Haeul decides to do that. The next day at school, 2 female students are charmed by his looks and give him sweets. Haeul thanks them and brings the gifts to Jenny, thinking she'll be happy. But Jenny thinks he's trying to poison her to kill her and take the mansion, so she refuses and kicks him out. But Haeul doesn't give up. Every day he leaves flowers and love notes at the mansion door, thinking she'll understand his feelings. But Jenny thinks some creepy stalker is harassing her and calls the police. Haeul quickly hangs up the call and thinks she's really not romantic. He meets with his friends again to come up with another plan, and they suggest he take her out on a date. Haeul decides to do that. When he gets back to the mansion, he asks Jenny to go to the movies with him. She refuses at first, but he threatens not to pay her back unless she goes, so she reluctantly agrees. Haeul is thrilled and tells his friends she agreed. They advise him to change his clothes and help him pick a new outfit. The next day, Jenny is shocked when she sees him looking incredibly handsome. He takes her to the movies and chooses a romantic film, hoping to make her fall for him. Haeul is deeply moved by the story and cries, "The Awakens," but is shocked to see Jenny bored and asleep. Angry that his plan failed, he argues with her when they leave, but Jenny gets upset and walks away. The next day, Jenny goes to school and is shocked to find out that the principal won't renew her contract. She feels upset because she really needed the job. When Hyul finds out, he feels guilty because she had defended him earlier. He goes to apologize to her, but she tells him it's not his fault and lies, saying she's not upset. However, when she leaves the school, she walks down the street crying and ends up at Song's restaurant. She sits alone, drinking alcohol and getting drunk, feeling sad. Song notices her, feels sorry for her, and decides to cheer her up. He tells one of the staff to let her believe that drinks are free today. Jenny gets happy and leaves the restaurant smiling, but she's not fully conscious and collapses in the street. Song, who is watching her, comes to help her, comforts her, and reassures her that he's by her side. She thanks him and goes back to the mansion. Hyul notices she's not herself and asks her, "What's wrong?" Jenny starts rambling and tells him about her mother's illness and how her father abandoned the family because of his debts, forcing her to work and support herself ever since. She cries, feeling lonely. Hyul is moved by her story, comforts her, and pats her on the shoulder to ease her pain, but she feels embarrassed, leaves him, and goes to her room. The next day, he notices she's still sleeping and goes to check on her, only to be shocked to find she's sick. He decides to stay by her side, putting cold compresses on her, taking care of her, and giving her medicine until she feels better. Jenny sees him sleeping by her side and thanks him for taking care of her. The next day, she goes to school to collect her belongings and meets the girl who used to be bullied. The girl comes to say goodbye and thanks Jenny for what she did for her, saying that because of Jenny, she now has confidence. Jenny is happy to hear that. Later, Jenny returns to the mansion and enters the room where the coffin had been. She finds a painting of a beautiful girl and realizes it's Hyul's ex-lover. Suddenly, Hyul walks in and Jenny asks him if he likes her because she looks like his ex-lover, but he tells her his ex was much prettier than her. Jenny gets angry and snaps, "A mosquito like you, who sucks blood, could never say anything nice." They argue, and Hyul tries to make it up to her by telling her he got revenge on the school principal by throwing dirty water on him for treating her unfairly. Jenny laughs and thanks him, but says they need to find a new job. The next day, Jenny goes for job interviews, but nobody hires her because she's still young and inexperienced. Later, Song calls her and asks to meet. He learns she's looking for a job and suggests she rent out the mansion as a hotel since it's big and would make her good money. Jenny loves the idea. When she returns, she asks for Hyul's opinion, but he refuses because he doesn't like noise. She explains that if they rent out the mansion, it'll become famous and maybe his ex-lover will hear about it and come back. As soon as he hears that, Hyul agrees. But when he learns that it was Song's idea, he feels jealous. He goes to his friends and confesses he's afraid Song might marry Jenny. They investigate Song and find out he's a handsome and wealthy young man. Hyul assumes Jenny must like Song. The next day, Jenny posts an ad for the mansion. Song calls her and asks to meet so he can help her. She goes to his company and is surprised to find he's holding a meeting with his employees to come up with ideas to help her make money from the mansion. Jenny is thrilled and feels lucky. Song later meets her and she happily thanks him for his help. Hyul sees her returning with Song and suspects something is going on between them. He confronts her and asks if she likes Song. Jenny gets flustered and tells him Song is just a colleague, but he doesn't believe her. Hyul then asks his vampire friend to spy on Song. His friend follows Song around and secretly takes pictures of him. Meanwhile, the psycho vampire appears. We learn he's still alive. He follows a girl to a deserted place and tries to attack her, but the wizard appears and stops him, warning him that if he tries it again, he'll tell Hyul. The next day, Jenny starts preparing the mansion to turn it into a hotel. Hyul goes to help her, but suddenly gets closer to her, making Jenny's heart race. She gets embarrassed and moves away. Later, Song calls her and tells her someone wants to meet her. When she meets him, he introduces her to a woman named Sarah who wants to buy the whole mansion. Jenny is surprised because the mansion is 100 years old, but Sarah says she likes it. Jenny feels she's seen her somewhere before. When she returns to the mansion, she decides to ask Hyul for his opinion, but their nosy neighbor shows up and tells them about self-defense patrols in the neighborhood, insisting they join. Hyul and Jenny reluctantly agree. They take flashlights and walk around the mansion together. Jenny is scared, but Hyul reassures her. They talk and grow closer. When they return to the mansion, Sarah is waiting for them. Hyul is shocked when he sees her because she looks exactly like his ex-lover. He thinks she has come back to him and runs to hug her, but she pushes him away and says it's the first time she's seen him. Hyul is confused and tries to remind her, but Jenny stops him before he exposes his secret and apologizes to Sarah, saying Hyul is drunk and not himself. Jenny drags him into the mansion before he can reveal he's a vampire. Hyul sits sadly in front of his ex-lover's picture. upset because she doesn't remember him. Jenny sees him and feels sorry for him. She comforts him and reassures him, saying if she really loves you, fate will bring you back together. Yul is touched by her words and thanks her. The next day, he visits his friends and overhears them talking about gold that used to be under the coffin. They suspect Jenny's grandfather stole it. But Hyul defends him because he trusts him. He tells them he met someone who looks like his ex, but doesn't remember him, and he's unsure what to do. They advise him to focus on his mission and make Jenny fall in love with him so he can suck her blood and become human. Hyul agrees with them, leaves, and goes back to the mansion. He finds out Jenny wants to renovate the mansion, so he calls Song and asks him to help her. Song is surprised by the request but agrees. He takes Jenny shopping and buys her what she needs at cheap prices. Then he takes her to a restaurant and orders her favorite food, cheering her up and making her happy. They spend a nice time together while Hyul and his friends take the opportunity to search for the gold, turning the mansion upside down, but finding nothing. Disappointed, they sit down to eat together, and his friends are afraid that Jenny might see them. But Hyul reassures them, saying, I'm the owner of the mansion, and I have the right to invite whoever I want. But suddenly Jenny arrives, and Hyul is scared of her reaction. He introduces his friends to her, but she's shocked when she finds out they're vampires. She gets angry and asks them to leave. Hyul tries to stop her, but she snaps. Will you shut up or should I kick you out with them? So he gets scared and says, fine, send them away. I don't even know them. After that, he sits with her and asks her to call Sarah and bring her to the mansion so he can try to make her remember him. Jenny agrees, calls Sarah, and arranges a meeting, warning Hyul not to tell Sarah he's a vampire. Hyul reassures her, saying, I'm over 1,000 years old. I know what I'm doing. Then he leaves and goes to the garden, recalling memories of his lover, who loved sunflowers. He decides to give Sarah a sunflower to see if she still likes them. The next day, he gets ready, wears his best suit, and Jenny notices him. She adjusts his tie for him. Hyul is moved by her kindness and feels something for her, but denies it because he remains loyal to his old lover. Sarah arrives on time. Hyul gives her flowers, and she's happy and thanks him. He shows her around the mansion. Later, Sung arrives, and the four of them have dinner together. Hyul keeps staring at Sarah, and she notices, feeling awkward. She asks him to drink alcohol with her. Jenny panics and refuses, trying to stop him since he's not used to drinking. But he insists, I'm over 1,000 years old. I can handle it. But as soon as he tastes the drink, he gets dizzy and starts babbling, almost exposing himself. Jenny has to drag him out and punches him to snap him out of it before he reveals anything. Hyul apologizes to her and promises not to drink again. He takes her back to the mansion, but notices that a lamp is about to fall on Sarah. He runs and saves her just in time, pretending he was just dancing with her. But then he feels dizzy and collapses unconscious. Jenny realizes he's sick from drinking, lets him rest, and takes Sung home. When she comes back, Hyul wakes up, thanks her for caring, and accidentally calls her Sarah. Jenny gets angry, realizing he's still hallucinating, hits him with a pillow, and leaves to her room. But she feels jealous about what happened and can't sleep, staying awake all night. Meanwhile, Sarah goes home, thinking about what happened, feeling happy about what Hyul did. The next day, Hyul wakes up, remembers what he did the night before, feels embarrassed, and sees Jenny standing there angry because she'd warned him not to use his powers. He apologizes and promises not to do it again. He's confused, not realizing that Jenny is actually jealous. At that moment, Hyul's friends see a hungry cat in the street, give it food, but it turns into a human. They realize he's a wizard. He explains to them that he doesn't care about the gold and asks them to help Hyul because his life is in danger. Later, Jenny meets Sung and apologizes for Hyul's behavior the night before. But Sung says he's not upset and tells her the mansion renovations will take a week. He suggests she stay in an apartment until then, and she thanks him and agrees. At the same time, Hyul gets a call from Sarah, thanking him for saving her and asking to meet him. He happily agrees and sets a date. When he returns to the mansion, he finds Jenny waiting and tells her she'll stay in the apartment until the mansion is ready. She assumes he'll stay with her, but he says he'll stay with his friends. She feels hurt and thinks he's changed since Sarah showed up, leaving confused and unsure of her feelings toward him. The next day, Sarah prepares to meet Hyul. When he sees her, he remembers his old lover. She takes him to an art exhibition. Hyul is surprised that his lover loved art. Her laughter and way of speaking remind him of her. Sarah buys him a painting to thank him. Meanwhile, Sung takes Jenny to see the apartment. She likes it and decides to stay there, thanking him for helping her. They sit in a restaurant, reminiscing about university days. Sung tells her he'd tried to talk to her many times back then but never got the chance. Jenny apologizes, saying she was working and supporting herself and had no time for dating. That night, Huel stays with his vampire friends but can't sleep because of their noise. He goes up to the roof, wanting to call Jenny but remembers she's probably asleep. Jenny, thinking of him, texts him to check on him. He's happy she's awake and calls her. They talk all night, happily, and agree to meet the next day at the mansion. The next day, they go to the mansion, but are surprised to find Sarah has sent Hyul a car as a gift. She calls him, saying it's a small gesture to thank him for saving her life. Jenny feels jealous and tells him to sell the car to pay off his debts, but Huel refuses, saying it's a gift and he can't sell it. He decides to learn how to drive to get a license and use the car. He succeeds and takes Jenny for a ride, but she's scared because he drives too fast. They return to the mansion to check on the renovation progress. Days pass, the weekends, and the renovation is complete. They turn the mansion from an abandoned place into a clean, modern one. Their nosy neighbor visits to see it and is amazed by the transformation. Sung sends Jenny flowers for the reopening. Hyul feels jealous because of it and goes out to distribute flyers for the mansion. The psycho vampire sees him and wants to confirm if Hyul has turned human yet. He drives at full speed, trying to run him over, but Hyul uses his power to stop the car with one hand. Sung's secretary sees it and tells Sung, who watches the video, shocked, remembering how Hyul's hands were always cold and connecting the dots. He realizes Hyul isn't human and is a vampire. At that moment, the wizard meets Hyul, takes his hands, and tells him he's running out of time. He says, "You must make Jenny fall in love with you and drink her blood, or you'll remain half human, half vampire, and die." Hyul is shocked and upset because he still thinks Sarah is his old lover and wants to marry and stay with her. Meanwhile, Jenny is worried about him, but Sung goes to her, asks to talk, and tells her about the video he saw, warning her that Hyul definitely isn't human. She gets nervous and tries to convince him he's imagining things, but he doesn't believe her and decides to prove his point. The next day, Hyul returns to the mansion and finds a girl there. He's surprised and asks who she is. Jenny tells him she's a customer staying at the mansion, but she notices he seems upset and assumes he's sick, telling him to go rest. Hyul is happy about her concern and thanks her. Later, they sit together and agree to split the work at the mansion. She'll handle the management and he'll handle cleaning. He agrees and goes out to buy some supplies. Then Sarah visits and talks to Jenny about Hyul, asking if she has feelings for him. Jenny gets flustered, denies it, and says she's not thinking about relationships right now. Hyul arrives and overhears her, gets upset by her words, and takes Sarah out for a walk in the garden. Sarah tells him she comes to the mansion just to see him. He's happy and remembers his old lover, hugs Sarah, and asks her to wait for him until he becomes human. When he returns to the mansion, he finds Jenny waiting for him, angry that he was out so late. He blames her, saying she opened the coffin too soon and caused all this. They argue, and he leaves the mansion to stay with his vampire friends. He tells them about his problems, how he loves Sarah because she reminds him of his old lover, but he's forced to make Jenny fall in love with him and drink her blood to become human, or else he'll die. His friends sympathize with him and try to comfort him as he drinks himself to sleep. The next day, he wakes up late and sneaks back into the mansion so Jenny won't notice him, but she sees him, gets angry, and orders him to do his work. He has no choice but to listen to her, so he doesn't get beaten. He starts cleaning the mansion and throwing out the garbage, but then he sees her sitting with a customer in the mansion, telling him about her father, how he left her because of debts, and she doesn't know whether he's alive or dead. Hyul overhears this and feels sorry for her because he feels lonely himself and realizes she must feel lonely too. He takes her out with him on a street patrol at that time. Meanwhile, the psychotic vampire takes advantage of their absence, sneaks into the mansion, searches around, and enters Hyul's secret room where he finds a picture of Hyul's old lover. Later, Hyul apologizes to Jenny for what he said earlier, and she forgives him. They keep walking together, and he asks her why she doesn't think about getting into a relationship. She points to a dead tree and tells him her heart died just like it. The next day, Song feels weak, collapses, and loses consciousness. He's rushed to the hospital. His secretary visits to check on him. Then Song decides to tell him the truth about his illness. We learn that he's the grandson of the army general who tried to capture Hyul 1,000 years ago. He shows him an old book and explains that everyone in his family has a hereditary disease and dies young, and the only cure is to drink vampire blood. He asks him to keep an eye on Hyul because he's suspicious of him. That night, Hyul takes Jenny to the tree she pointed at the day before, now decorated with many lights, as if it had come to life again. He tells her that one day, she too will love again. Jenny is moved by what he did and decides to make amends and help him become human. Hyul tells her the only way is for them to fall in love with each other. Jenny is shocked and embarrassed. Hyul explains that she's the only one who can help him because she was the one who opened the coffin, creating a bond between them, which is why he always senses when her life is in danger. Jenny becomes flustered by his words and asks for time to think, then leaves to her room. Meanwhile, the psychotic vampire meets Sarah, hands her a picture of Hyul's old lover, and when she opens it, she's shocked to see she looks exactly like her. She assumes this is why Hyul saved her life. The next day, Jenny goes to talk to Kjol and tells him she agrees to help him become human. She says she'll treat it like donating blood, but he has to try to make her fall in love with him. Hyul is overjoyed and thanks her. Suddenly, she gets a message saying Song is in the hospital, so she goes to check on him. Song is happy she's worried about him and tells her his condition is stable. Later, Sarah visits Hyul and asks him to show her around the mansion. He reluctantly agrees and takes her to a secret room where he tells her about his old lover and how she died saving his life. Sarah is surprised and realizes he saved her life to repay the favor because she resembles his old lover. Hyul senses that Sarah likes him and is about to ask her about it when Jenny returns to the mansion. Sarah notices that Jenny seems jealous seeing them together and realizes she likes Hyul. That night, Hyul meets with his vampire friends and tells them he told Jenny everything, and she agreed to help him. He asks them how to make her fall in love with him, which is the only problem left, so he can drink her blood and become human. None of them can help, but their experienced vampire friend starts giving him advice. At the same time, a customer at the mansion sits with Jenny and gives her love advice to help them fall for each other. Later, Hyul and Jenny meet, but they're both shy and neither can put the advice into action. Hyul tells her that if she falls in love and helps him drink her blood, he'll become human and leave the mansion for her alone. He thinks this will make her happy, but she's upset because she feels lonely and hates goodbyes. She tells him she'll think about it and leaves to her room, upset. Hyul is puzzled by her reaction. Later, Song is discharged from the hospital and goes to see Hyul, asking him to leave the mansion in exchange for any amount of money. But Hyul refuses, telling him he'll leave when he wants to, and walks away. Afterward, Jenny is upset because there are no customers coming to the mansion, but Sarah calls her. They meet, and Sarah suggests throwing a big party at the mansion to make it famous and attract people. Jenny likes the idea and agrees. When she returns to the mansion, she tells Hyul, who also agrees. Hyul gets ready, goes to a suit shop to buy a new suit, and when he returns to the mansion, he finds Jenny flustered and unable to prepare the party properly. He tells her to rest and that he'll handle it. Suddenly, his vampire friends arrive, and Jenny is scared of them, but Hyul reassures her they're harmless. They help her arrange the mansion and manage to get it ready in a short time. Then, Hyul changes into his suit and brings Jenny a dress as a gift. Jenny is surprised and happy by his thoughtfulness and thanks him for paying attention to her and the details. When she wears the dress, he's stunned at how beautiful she looks and can't take his eyes off her. The guests arrive and the party begins. Everyone sings and dances. Even though Sarah is there, Hyul focuses on Jenny, takes her hand, and asks her to dance. Jenny is shy, but he encourages her, and they start dancing together. Everyone is impressed and says they look good together. Sarah hears them and feels jealous because she had organized the party to try to get closer to him. She gets upset and can't control herself. She breaks a glass and leaves the party angrily. Jenny is surprised by her behavior, so she follows her and tries to explain that it's just a misunderstanding. But Sarah treats her badly, throwing sarcastic comments at her because she thinks Jenny is just playing around with both Song and Hyul. Hyul tries to talk to her to calm her down, but she doesn't give him a chance and walks away. Jenny is hurt by her words and goes to her room, but she keeps thinking about Hyul all night. Afterwards, Hyul goes to speak with the sorcerer and asks him why he's helping him without asking for anything in return. The sorcerer gets nervous and admits the truth. It turns out he was the one who told the soldiers where to find him 1,000 years ago, which led to the death of Hyul's beloved. He tells him he has regretted it ever since and has been trying to make up for his mistake. He asks Hyul to forgive him. Hyul is shocked by what he hears and gets angry because the sorcerer was the reason his beloved died. The next day, Song goes to meet Jenny and shows her a video of Hyul lifting the car, proving to her that he's not human. But he is surprised when she tells him she already knew the truth, saying that Hyul is kind and doesn't hurt anyone. She asks him to keep the secret and not show the video to anyone. Then she leaves and goes back to the mansion. where she sees Hyul looking for a photo of his beloved. She feels sorry for him and decides to help him look, but she climbs up on a chair to reach a high place, stumbles, and is about to fall. As always, Hyul senses that she's in danger and catches her just in time. They stare at each other for a moment, but suddenly he gets a call from Sarah, who is drunk and not in her senses. He decides to go to her, takes her home, and there he finds the photo of his old beloved at her place. Sarah asks him if she is the one he's been waiting for all this time, but he gets nervous and can't answer her. He leaves her house, confused, not knowing whether she really is his old beloved or not. He wanders the streets until late at night, and Jenny, worried, goes out looking for him and finally finds him. She scolds him for not coming back to the mansion, but Hyul is happy she was worried about him. Suddenly he feels weak, falls to the ground, and faints. Jenny panics because if she takes him to the hospital, they'll find out he has no pulse and think he's dead, even though he's not. So she has to call his vampire friends, who come, take him back to the mansion, and explain to her that his condition is serious because he is now half vampire and half human. Jenny feels guilty because she's the reason he woke up from his coffin before his time. She stays by his side all night to care for him. When Hyul wakes up, he finds her sleeping beside him and is touched by her kindness. She wakes up, happy to see he's okay, and tells him she was worried about him and asks him to stay by her side because she feels she's started to love him. Hyul is overjoyed by her words and hugs her. The next day, Jenny starts taking care of herself and puts on makeup. When Hyul sees her, he tells her she looks beautiful, which makes her feel shy. She sits with him and asks why he got sick yesterday. He tells her about Sarah, saying he doesn't feel like she's his beloved, even though she looks just like her, because her personality is different. He tells Jenny that when he met her, he felt lost, and she saved him. They both live some of the happiest moments of their lives together, and he holds her hand. But suddenly his friends arrive and ruin the romantic moment. Hyul gets angry and feels like attacking them, but they explain they only came to check on him and ask Jenny to let them work and stay with him at the mansion to take care of him. At first, Jenny refuses because she's afraid of them, but she's forced to agree because they have nowhere else to go. At the same time, Song meets with Sarah and decides to tell her the truth about Hyul, that he's a vampire. Sarah is shocked and remembers what Hyul said about his beloved he's been waiting for all these years, and she becomes sure he's not human. Later, Jenny's neighbor leaves his little son with her, asking her to watch him for a while. Jenny has to agree, but the boy wants to go to the amusement park. Hyul decides to take advantage of the opportunity and takes them all out for fun. There, he gets even closer to Jenny, holds her hand, and they try all the rides and enjoy their time together. Then the boy wants to go into the haunted house, but Jenny is scared. Hyul reassures her, saying, "Don't be afraid. You're with a vampire, and he's afraid of just a few ghosts." And indeed, they go in. But as soon as he sees the scary statues, he panics and runs out quickly. And Jenny laughs at him because he's such a coward. She buys him an ice cream to cheer him up. At the end of the day, they head home together, happy. Their neighbor comes to pick up the boy and thanks them. After that, Jenny sits with Hyul and tells him she's ready to let him drink her blood so he can become human. Hyul is shocked and thanks her, and they agree to do it on her birthday so they can celebrate it. At the same time, we see the psycho vampire kidnapping a human, and we learn that he keeps humans to drink their blood. And the shocking part is that Jenny's father is one of them. The next day, our heroes work together to clean the mansion. They play around, splashing each other with water. Suddenly Sarah arrives, sees them, and feels jealous. She asks to speak with Jenny alone and threatens her to stay away from Hyul because he's just using her. But Jenny refuses and tells her, "I'll follow my heart, not what I see," and walks away. At night, Hyul goes to meet the sorcerer, who reassures him that he's finally close to becoming human. But then, the sorcerer reveals the truth. Hyul will have to sacrifice Jenny and drink all her blood, or else he will die. Hyul is shocked by his words and says, "Why didn't you tell me that from the start?" He walks away, stunned and unable to process what he's just heard. On his way, he runs into Song, who attacks him, hitting him because he already knows Hyul wants to drink Jenny's blood. But suddenly, Hyul feels weak and realizes Jenny is in danger. He rushes back to save her. A thug is trying to kidnap the girl staying with them in the mansion. Jenny tries to stop him, but he hits her and knocks her to the ground, then decides to kidnap her as well. Luckily, Hyul arrives just in time, beats up the thug, and checks on Jenny. But then Song shows up, sees Jenny unconscious, and thinks Hyul tried to drink her blood. He rushes over, takes her away, and brings her to the hospital, staying by her side all night. But he overhears her calling Hyul's name in her sleep, which makes him jealous. When she wakes up, he's happy and tells her that Hyul tried to drink her blood and asks her to stay away from him. Of course, she doesn't believe him and insists on going back to the mansion the next day. She goes to sleep to rest. Meanwhile, Hyul tries calling her, but Song answers instead, lies, and tells him she doesn't want to talk to him. Hyul feels guilty and remembers all his memories with her, thinking she's now afraid of him, and decides to stay away. He goes to the sorcerer and tells him it's impossible for him to hurt Jenny because he loves her, then walks away. The next day, Jenny wakes up and decides to leave the hospital. Song tries to stop her, telling her that Hyul is using her to drink her blood, but she doesn't care, and tells him she trusts Hyul. She leaves, and when she sees Hyul waiting for her outside, she runs to him and hugs him. He's overjoyed that she's okay, takes her back to the mansion, and asks her to rest. Then, he sits down with his friends and agrees with them to find Jenny's father and bring him back. He wants to do this so that when he disappears from Jenny's life, she won't end up alone again. At the same time, the psycho-vampire meets Song at the company, asks to speak with him and says, "We have the same goal. We need to work together." They agree to join forces to get rid of Hyul. The next day, Hyul and his friends start searching for Jenny's father. They hand out flyers everywhere, but the psycho-vampire watches them and laughs because he's the one who kidnapped him and is keeping him in a secret place. That night, Hyul gets a call from an unknown person who tells him he knows where Jenny's father is. Hyul is overjoyed and goes to meet him. But when he arrives, he finds many humans locked up, and suddenly he himself is trapped in an iron cell. It turns out the psycho-vampire had set a trap for him. The psycho approaches, laughing, and tells him his end is near. He calls Song to come and drink Hyul's blood. Luckily, Hyul's friends arrive just in time and try to fight him, but the psycho is much stronger because he feeds on human blood. He attacks them and throws them to the ground. Realizing his strength is unnatural, they tell their friend to save Hyul while they distract the vampire. She does as they say, freeing Hyul from his cell and releasing the other humans. Hyul runs to help his friends, attacks the psycho in anger, and breaks his bones. The psycho, terrified, flees. Afterward, Hyul takes Jenny's father back to the mansion. Jenny is shocked to see her father alive. Though upset, he left her alone. Crying, she tells him she hates him. Later, Hyul's friends learn from the sorcerer that Hyul is dying because he refuses to drink Jenny's blood. They're saddened, but decide to respect his wishes. The next day, Jenny's father speaks with Hyul, explaining that the psycho kidnapped him because he refused to hand over the mansion. Jenny overhears everything and feels sorry for him. Realizing she misjudged him, she goes to Hyul, hugs him crying, apologizes, and asks for forgiveness. They make up, and their relationship improves. They sit and reminisce about their childhood memories. Later, Hyul stands under their tree when Jenny comes from behind, hugs him, and thanks him for saving her father. She tells him she's ready to let him drink her blood so he can become human, but he grows tense and refuses, asking to postpone the matter because he's too tired. Meanwhile, Song and the psycho-vampire watch the mansion, plotting to kidnap Hyul. Suddenly, Hyul collapses from exhaustion. Jenny sees him, panics, and rushes to help, noticing strange marks on his arm. She moves him to his room to rest. There, she learns from his friends that he's dying because he needs her blood. Shocked, she decides to sacrifice herself to save him. On the other side, Song buys an old dagger to kill Hyul and take his blood. The next day, Jenny discovers Hyul is gone. She tries calling him, but he doesn't answer. His friends tell her he left because he wants to die rather than put her in danger. Stunned, she runs through the streets like crazy looking for him, but can't find him anywhere. Meanwhile, Sarah visits Hyul's neighbors and tells them he's a vampire. That night, the psycho calls Song and says he has a plan to lure Hyul. Song realizes it's something dangerous and rushes to stop him and save Jenny. At that moment, Jenny returns to the mansion but finds the psycho waiting for her. He kidnaps her and takes her to an isolated place, beating her as he demands to know where Hyul is. She doesn't know, so he decides to drink her blood. But Hyul senses she's in danger, comes down from the mountain just in time, saves her, and starts fighting the psycho despite being weak. The psycho pins him to the wall and beats him mercilessly. Jenny tries to help but gets struck too. Enraged, Hyul gathers all his strength, attacks, and sends the psycho flying. Terrified, the psycho flees. Hyul hugs Jenny to reassure her. Song arrives, sees them hugging, feels jealous, and leaves. Later, Jenny convinces Hyul to stay with her, brings him back to the mansion, and his friends are happy to see him. Hyul decides to spend his remaining days with them. But the next morning, he feels even weaker and knows his end is very near. Jenny takes him to rest and sits by his side. Meanwhile, their nosy neighbor gathers the townspeople outside the mansion, demanding they leave. Hyul feels guilty for causing this trouble and decides to help Jenny before he dies. The next day, he confronts the neighbor, admits he's a vampire, but says he's harmless. He apologizes for deceiving her and, knowing his time is short, asks her to let Jenny stay because she has nowhere else to go. At the same time, Sarah finds out Hyul is dying and goes to check on him, but Jenny throws her out, blaming her for exposing him, and tells her to stay away. Sarah is deeply affected and feels guilty. On her way out, she runs into Hyul, talks to him, and apologizes. He asks her to make it up to him by protecting Jenny. Sarah agrees, finds the psycho, and demands he leave Jenny alone. He refuses and tries to attack her, but Song arrives just in time and kills him with the dagger. That night, Hyul learns that the next day will be his last. He visits the sorcerer to say goodbye and asks his forgiveness. The sorcerer hugs him and tells him, "I've lived for many years, but you're the kindest human I've ever met." Hyul is touched that he called him a human and thanks him. He decides to spend his final hours with Jenny. The next day, he takes her on a trip to the beach. They walk along the shore, splash each other with water, and have fun together. Jenny takes a photo of them to remember him, and Hyul is happy to finally appear in a picture, feeling almost human for the first time, even sensing his heart beating like a human's. At sunset, he confesses his love, and they hug. That night, Jenny falls asleep from exhaustion. Hyul quietly says goodbye, crying as he leaves. He finds Song waiting for him. We learn Hyul had agreed to let Song drink his blood to save him. Hyul asks him to take care of Jenny after he dies. Song promises, thanks him, and prepares to stab him. But suddenly Jenny wakes up and begs them not to do it. Hyul, knowing his end is near, takes the dagger himself and kills himself. Jenny runs to him, hugs him, and he thanks her for meeting him. The last thing he tells her is that he loves her. Then he dies. Jenny breaks down crying and promises to remember him forever. She places his body in his coffin and gives him a funeral attended by all his friends, who mourn him and thank him for everything he did for them. The next day, the sorcerer meets Jenny and gives her a chest full of gold. He tells her Hyul asked him to keep it for her to pay off his debts and help her start a new life. Jenny is deeply moved and decides to share the money with his friends. Time passes. His friends open a big restaurant named after him, serving his favorite dishes. Meanwhile, Song recovers from his illness, becomes a famous businessman, and fulfills Hyul's wish by donating to treat children with heart disease. Jenny continues living in the mansion, now full of customers and no longer lonely. But she still holds on to hope that Hyul will be reborn and they'll meet again. She imagines him standing before her and promises to wait for him forever. And so, the series ends.